TV.
Hello. You got to turn your mic down. Thank you. We got to go to something. War of the Worlds with H.G. Wells. I don't know what's on our TV behind us, Aaron, but check it real quick. We wanted to play. We didn't want girls in towels behind us. That's not what we wanted. We wanted.
This is War of the Worlds. It's just a newer version.
Oh, it is. Let's go back to the H.G. Wells. Citizen Kane version.
Just do Election Sunday.
I know we're gonna go to Election Sunday.
Just run the trailer of Forbidden Planet.
I got you.
Okay.
I'll find something.
We're going to do Forbidden Planet. Well, the reason why we're talking space this morning is not because we're not following the Election Sunday format. We are following the Election Sunday format. But the X factor, right, in this election is what? The X factor in this election is Elon Musk. No question about it. The X factor is Elon Musk. So if you're not Elon Musk, and no one is, I don't know why that is, that's sort of state sponsorship. That's sort of DARPA. And that's the thing that's tipping the balance here in the late goings. It's getting people out to the polls in record numbers. I was down in Ohio, been in Ohio a lot, but they had record early voting yesterday. You early voted Saturday's early voting
Monday, and it ended, yesterday.
It ended yesterday or today
or Friday.
Whatever. Or Friday. Okay, yeah. So record turnout. So that's even after a couple of elections with record turnout. And the X factor is Elon Musk. And so we wanted to take a deep dive into the technologies of Elon Musk. So we brought in Mark because he is a sci-fi expert.
I'm as good as anybody.
Good as anybody. But if you think about it, all of the old sci-fi in the 50s and 60s during the Cold War were all really live exercises. They were live exercises in different part of a global conflict between the Soviet Union and the United States. All the things we're dealing with, like AI now, SpaceX, Tesla robotic cars, Cybertruck robotic trucks for remote armies, the Optimus robots for super soldiers. All of that technology was all talked about in the 50s and 60s. Wernher von Braun had all these dreams of not just nuclear war with ICBMs, but bio war with ICBMs, right? All these are old ideas. And so we thought we'd bring them all back to show how they are still live exercises. And that's why you're going to be so much fun to talk to this morning about Forbidden Planet.
I just remember this, years ago, because it was a late night movie, and it was always considered like drive-in fare. It was a B movie, in its day, but it was really prescient. And this, this planet that now has Anne Francis and Walter Pidgeon living on it, was once inhabited by a civilization called the Krell, and the Krell created this
an AI monster,
essentially an AI system. If you look at it here, because what killed them? Because remember, from psychology, you have the id and the ego,
and the super ego,
and these were monsters from the id, and
our uncontrollable limbic.
And they would manifest, as if someone was threatening you or whatever, you might manifest, I'm going to kill this person. And this thing would, actually go kill this person.
And to be clear, these are coming from the minds of people, the part of the mind called the id.
Yeah.
Their instantiation of this in their head and their brain is creating a separate entity outside of them, a tactile person or entity that can then
energy force, because this was always demonstrated, it was this, like it would go into the force field, and you would see, the outline of this creature that, that had a purpose, and this was the Space Force, that had arrived there was a threat to this, professor who had essentially the rest of the landing party had died from monsters from the id, but they were like from his id, because he was gone in and started studying this civilization, and these, take them into these, into the mainframe of this, miles and miles and miles, of energy, just processing equipment, and his brain would turn it a little bit, but a real Krell, it was just, it was just amazing, that.
So you sort of have an Elon Musk type character
Yeah.
with all this empowered AI as evil, and then you have the Space Force, which was what we have now out there in Lompoc, Vandenberg Air Force Base, and Huntsville, Alabama. And instead of them being on the same team, which I say they are, and Elon is basically just a commercial cover for all these DARPA live exercises, in this case, they're against each other.
Yeah, because
in this case, they're against each other.
This crew was sent to relieve this other landing party that had been sent out like 20 years previously. And only Dr. Morbius and his daughter and this robot.
Morbius?
Yeah, the Walter Pigeon character, Dr.
Morbius.
Morbius.
Okay, like Mobius, like an infinite strip.
It's a great movie. It's in CinemaScope. I mean, if you've never seen it, it's from 1956. But, I mean, it's like, you find it like if you were a Star Trek fan, because all of a sudden here's this other space movie. It was at that point. But, if you like the Star Trek, I mean, you really would enjoy it. And it has Leslie Nielsen in it, Earl Halleman.
A young Leslie Nielsen.
Yeah. Even there's even a character that guest starred in Star Trek. I'll just leave it at that. But it was fun. It's a fun movie. And anyhow, is the AI and Chat GPT, and Sam Altman is all of that's just kind of come on the scene. I just kept going back to thinking about the Krell. Another one is
before we move on, I just want to say I wrote a Substack this morning, georgewebb.substack.com. It's all about when the folks that have the highest level of clearance. And it started in the 50s, 58, with the instantiation of NASA after Sputnik. 57, 58, Eisenhower creates NASA. They create a layer of secrecy that no one else in the armed forces can get to. They create a Kármán line, which is, we know from me finding the BlackBerry in Washington, D.C., it's 327,360 feet up. Everything above that is sort of 400,000 feet is where you start getting into the reentry of vehicles, and you needing a heat shield, and you need DARPA technologies with heat shields and so forth. And you need American glass research glass, the thick glass that the American glass research for the space shuttle, all the space shuttle technologies you need at that height. So this leads into what I'm saying here with the idea of Space Force, the idea of Elon Musk, all these technologies. And these folks is my metadata to watch in any election. Wherever those folks, the folks who have the above top secret clearance, literally, the people who have that clearance, wherever they put their chips is who's going to win the election. That's my fundamental theory. Is I don't really watch a lot of people with a lot of, they produce one poll says Harris is ahead here and Trump's ahead here. But wherever deep state and deep space puts their chips a couple of months before the election, that's probably who's going to win. And look at the money that Elon's put into this. So now let's move on to the next live exercise, or the next sci-fi. Did I interrupt you too much? Or
no? I was just thinking another episode from the Star Trek series, the one with Dr. Corby, who was Nurse Chapel's love interest in the past.
Dr. Corby.
Yeah, and
people are going to want to be doing searches at home with their Oculus or their Apple Vision. So we have to say these names so they can bring them up, create AI videos for themselves.
But here's another episode, that kind of deals with this too. This Dr. Corby is in this down in this. They went to the landing party into this ice world, okay, and then they had to go down into the interior of the planet, okay, to reach this guy. And then the guy that played Lurch, that Ted Cassidy, he plays this character in this guy called Rock, and he's all dressed up, and he's like an android type creature from the previous civilization that had died. Okay. And here's, Dr. Corby, meeting Nurse Chapel. Well, this isn't the real Dr. Corby. This is some, facsimile of him that had been created. Okay. And you see it later.
The Optimus robot replicon of Dr. Corby. Yeah.
Okay. And
maybe
anyhow, there was a piece there. Okay. And anyhow, after Captain Kirk came, and emotions began to, flourish within the storyline. This Rock had just forgotten, what had happened to this, what happened, in the before time. and the humans began to realize that these robot type creatures, were taking on a mind of their own, and they began to shut them off. Okay, because they were a threat, and the robots, took on a self-preservation. You're not going to turn us off, and they began destroying anyone who would shut them off. And then this guy, the casting characters, was starting to recognize these landing party people, are they're here to turn us off.
Right.
Okay. And so anyhow, they have to maybe convert Kirk into one of these characters, to be one of them.
So let me press pause there for 1 second and just say this is, again, I covered this in my Substack this morning, georgewebb.substack.com. We talk about the Optimus robots of Elon Musk. And Elon Musk going through, you're supposed to teach your personal robot. Remember, personal computers like Steve Jobs, personal computers like IBM. Personal robot is the Optimus robot. You're supposed to teach it all the things that are incredible and invaluable that you gave the world during your life. So you play the Stradivarius, you teach your Optimus robot to play the Stradivarius. You build, containment chambers for nuclear fusion. You teach that to your Optimus robot. You build, the CERN.
A monster from the id.
Yeah, super accelerator for CERN. You teach your Optimus robot, and then the catch is one day you wake up and you're driving your Tesla and the doors lock, and then it drives to a FEMA camp, and then the Optimus robot takes over for you, and it plays the Stradivarius still at the concert hall, and it keeps doing the containment, Tomax for the nuclear. Everything goes along just fine. There's no disruption. So, I mean, this is the thing that we wouldn't be mentioning this if this wasn't the consciousness of the group that is ruling the country. Obviously, the people who shot Kennedy, if you haven't seen it, 3 weeks before that, they run Kennedy down by the gantry at Marshall Space Flight Center in Huntsville. Same height, 60 feet high of the Texas School Book Depository, same angle, same open Lincoln Continental. They're sending a message. These folks that are above top secret are sending a message. I'm talking about Musk, Bezos, Thiel, etc. The above top secret, the above the Carmen line folks. They're the ones who weigh in, right, on who they want to win, right? That's my metadata here, and that's all these robot versus man type struggles are all live exercises, right? They're all live exercises that are acted out first in art, and then later put into math and science and reality with these robots. So continue with the.
Well, I'm just with back to this stuff that what I'm talking about. I mean, so we're almost 70 years ago.
70 years
Forbidden
ago.
Planet, and almost 60 years ago on a Star Trek episode. But they were telling us then, and to live long enough to see so much, because that's not the only. I mean, so many of those episodes of so much of the science fiction that you watch is like they were telling us, or they saw it and decided that they inspired to create it. But
right. But I think these came right out of the Nazi files, right out of the paperclip files. As far as Wernher von Braun's mission to Mars. Elon Musk talks about it. That's one of his guiding lights.
Forbidden Planet predates Sputnik. I mean, we hadn't even gone to space. Well,
Forbidden Planet doesn't predate Wernher von Braun with V2 and V3 and V4, right?
But but they're getting you ready for space. Okay, maybe that and then now you can sell Sputnik on on the people, because this is like young people have seen this movie. It's like, oh yes, space.
Yeah.
It's just, my father could never rationalize me watching Star Trek. It's just like couldn't understand how I could sit and watch this, because he couldn't really follow the the whole technical part of it. Really it's the same plot line as a Western. They've just instead of cowboys and Indians, you got Federation and Klingons, and you're shooting with phasers rather than with six guns. But he could a lot of Star Trek episodes were based on Gunsmoke episodes,
right? Well, but I think the technology that gets thrown in is the thing to focus on, and I talk about this because When they launched NASA in 1958, they also launched the National Science Foundation. And the National Science Foundation was responsible for the national science fairs. You remember growing up with science fairs? We did science fairs. They were focusing in on math and science education because we had to beat the Russians. See, we grew up during this, so this is easy for us to remember. We had to beat the Russians. We had to look missile command. Here come the incoming missiles. This was the first video game, right? The first really successful video game with the trackball out of, Stanford Research, Engelbart's trackball and so forth. It was so easy with an easy user interface. There was no instructions to play missile command. You saw the missiles coming in. You moved the trackball to put the anti-ballistic missiles in to knock out the missiles coming in, and that's the name of the game, right? If you look at the same thing, fast forward to Winburn, and fast forward to Bob Malone and Nick Jacobs, all there at Winburn, all there at the the cancer lab there, underground cancer lab. They're using the same mathematical missile command software to analyze breast cancer tumors. Right. So none of this has gone away. This tells you who is actually in charge and who's making the decision about who's going to win. And that's why I find all these movies and so forth kind of fascinating because they kind of foretell the future. It's a way of looking into the future because it's the people who are in control and it's their ideas, their dreams, their plans, their live exercises. If you watch their live exercises, you can predict the future. So Star Trek, to me, Roddenberry, they sat down. Peter Duke knows the whole Roddenberry story and knew Roddenberry. They sit down and say, "Here's all the Werner von Braun's space dreams." I can't remember who the cartoonist was, the German Nazi cartoonist that drew up all the space dreams of von Braun. But all your creative is pretty much done. All you have to do is, like you said, Marcus, put together some kind of Western where somebody rides into town. Somebody says, there ain't enough room for both of us here in this town. The other people coming in say, is that so? And you have a shootout at high noon and somebody gets shot and somebody wins and gets the girl. That's kind of every Star Trek episode was sort of like that, only they threw in the technology, the communicator, right? The ability to, the transporter, the tricorder for the medical.
It's this funny. I remember reading this in a book years ago. When they did an episode in the first season, and it was, I guess, the first episode that they aired, it had this monster that craved salt. Okay, and it would kill you by taking all the salt out of your body, just by touching you. But anyhow, there was a scene, where the monster that could manifest itself as any human form that it needed, had gotten itself onto the ship. And there was this one scene where Mr. Sulo's carrying a tray of food to from the commissary to some point. And so he had a salt shaker on his tray. And this monster, suddenly had to have this salt. Well, the scene went, when they're doing it, says, well, what does a salt shaker look like, in the 23rd century? So the prop department went out and bought all of these elaborate salt and pepper shakers to do this scene. And then when they went to do the scene, they realized that the public wouldn't get the joke because they wouldn't know it was a salt shaker. So they went down to the commissary and just got a regular salt shaker, put that on the tray and shot the scene. Well, all of these salt and pepper shakers became Dr. McCoy's medical devices.
That's great. That's awesome. Yeah, like the tricorder and all these other things that holographically could see through you and MR. All that stuff, right, became and is a part of AI in medicine now. All that stuff that you're talking about with the ability to, live, with fluoroscopes and MRIs and
that thing that he would use. Well, your phone does that now.
Yeah. And they want thin dissolvable needles. Bill Gates had that dissolvable needle patch, and a lot of the fentanyl patches have the same idea where you can put a biomarker in the fentanyl patches. No wonder they want to fentanyl overdose all of our kids, right? Even if they don't kill the kids, you've got the mark of the beast right there. Now, some people say the mark of the beast has to be on the forehead, but why not put it in the fentanyl patch? And now you're biomarking everybody. Now you have enough biomass and enough biomaterial that if you do walk by a sensor, like a street lamp or whatever.
Well, when in that symbiology, there is that when you take it on the forehead, that's when you've let it into your brain. When it is your thinking now, and you're no longer a free will creature. You now take direction from
the external source. And that's Elon's Neuralink. It's not there yet. It's people with epilepsy or cerebral palsy or whatever, some kind of PONS, in the brain, motor center, delivery of the electrical signals to the right motor joints may be the first thing, because that's shared evolutionarily with a lot of mammals. That monkeys, he's put it in monkeys. He's put it in, I think, cows. I can't remember. I wish Aaron will be back. He's running around between all the African princes and princesses today with all the different birthday parties. But I think they put it in to all the farm animals. And this is right out of Animal Farm. Hey, if we could make the animal eat at certain times and eat more before slaughter, not eat too much that they're a problem to maintain, and figure out what the best time to make them want to eat is, we can control the population. And then it's a simple step to just step it up to humans, right? And again, once they teach their robots, we can have them go to the slaughter pen, right? Or whatever, if their time is up. If we've just determined that this is slaughter time, we'll send them to the slaughter pen. So did you watch any of the other ones, like any of the other sci-fi 50s, like, what was it? There was My Favorite Martian. That was sort of a comedy.
Yeah.
There was a lot of them. There was a lot of them on television when we were growing up.
The Outer Limits.
The Outer Limits.
And the Twilight Zone.
Twilight Zone.
Dealt with
dystopian futures kind of thing.
Yeah.
Weird conflict with advanced technology, races, civilizations, technology, etc.
Well, of course, you go way back to to Frankenstein, and that's your
that's the
creating of the golem, like creating life. We'll try and mimic creating Adam. We'll create this. We'll create our own creature,
right?
Our own man.
I went to France, not far from CERN, actually, where CERN is. And if you look up on the mountains, that's where Mary Shelley stayed to write the original Frankenstein. And then I can't remember, she wrote The Bride of Frankenstein. But on Halloween evening, I watched The Bride of Frankenstein. But it is the same Neuralink type concept, which is, hey, if I wanted to create a whole army that I control, rather than let self-autonomy and self-determination in the brain, why don't I transplant somebody else's brain who already likes me and wants me to stay in power? Why don't I transplant that brain into that person? Because they didn't have the technology with robots yet.
Because there's not an understanding of conscious self, which is not like, it's not in the brain. It just might manifest in the brain. But conscious self is like electricity. It's just, it's just there,
right? Just
needing, a vessel to manifest itself in a way. That's it's like, it's not, it's not here. It's, we're just like a radio receiver, but without this, signal coming in. And that's the conscious self,
right?
That's.
Well, my point is that in Shelley's time, they understood that consciousness was sourced in the brain. It wasn't in the, people had lived without legs, amputees, or without arms.
Well, those that would say that the center of consciousness is in the solar plexus.
Right. I mean, there is an argument to say without the heart, your that's where the soul is as well.
Try to live
without a heart. Yeah.
But we're metaphysics and alchemy kind of stuff.
We lived through all this. I lived through the artificial heart. I lived through the Jarvik heart. I went down to South Africa where the Debeke heart was, or Christian Barnard, excuse me. We've gone through all of the. There's Trump. Trump's in Salem, Virginia today. Is Virginia switching gears? Is Virginia going to be a swing state?
I think so. They got a victory. Youngkin got a victory on the illegal voters. That's like a red state in disguise.
But it's gone blue the last, I can't remember the Clinton guy who was with the green car. He was the kind of the money bundler for the Clintons. That was
well, Washington's gotten so big. Okay, the suburbs are going to grow too. So I just, that's, I guess, where it will be decided. It's going to be
with CIA agents. You have enough to tip the balance. We got Slotkin here, a CIA agent running for senator here. I can't remember. I heard a statistic about all the CIA that is in the House of Representatives. It's like 10% of the House now. The great Aaron Adler is back.
Wasn't Adam Schiff? He was CIA. Wasn't he?
Well, I know he's got a top secret clearance. I don't know if he's CIA or
not.
But
I thought he came out of the CIA. That that he was from the CIA. I believe.
His father for sure. First motion.
Heard that. I don't know that.
First motion picture unit in Laurel Canyon, writing all of the. They're again the dream makers. They're the ones who are doing the films of the atomic explosions, and that creates the mass formation psychosis in the newsreels. Oh, we all should be afraid of the Russians. We all should be afraid of the Russians sending nuclear missiles our way. They had films of the Russians sending the missiles. Here we are at the Laputa, at the missile base at Laputa. The Russians are tilting up the SS-72. It's extended the range of the long-range ICBMs more than 30% over the last one. Here it is taking off. And then here's Yuri Gagarin landing out in the Cosmodrome out in Kazakhstan. Here he is. Give a big wave, Yuri. Remember those newsreels that were played to us in the Cold War so that we would say, oh, we've got to put more money into NASA. We've got to put more money into ICBMs. There's a missile gap. There's a missile tunnel gap, gap. You remember Dr. Strangelove.
I was seeing the movies. It was like, the Russians are coming. The Russians are coming.
That was a funny one.
Yeah.
Alan Arkin. Yeah. Yeah. And then the movie, that's kind of an anti-war movie because when the Russians do come and wash up in their submarine, they find out everybody really kind of likes each other. We kind of are all in the same boat. We're similar in many ways, genetically and everything else, We have a common sense of community, and the one John Philip Law, if you remember, falls in love with Eva Marie Saint. And who can forget? And I'll recreate it here in front of us all. When I don't think it was Eva Marie Saint. My dad acted with Eva Marie Saint at the Cleveland Front Row Theater, but the daughter, beautiful blonde daughter, and she kissed John Philip Law, and John Philip Law's reaction was like this: "You kissed me. You kissed me. This means same thing as in Soviet Union?" And she was like, yeah, it does. So it was out of that beautiful love story of "You kissed me," right, that we learned we could love the Russians, and the Russians are coming, right? That was a great movie.
And that's where we're at right now. I mean, look at Russia,
Russia.
It's just the Russians. It's always the Russians. As long as there's neocons, there'll be a Russian threat.
You remember Failsafe? You remember?
Oh, yeah.
With Henry Fonda? Yeah, Henry Fonda. That was a great movie. I'm
7 Days in May was the
7 Days in May. Yep.
That's where the generals tried to take over.
We're going to do all these, by the way. We're going to have clips. When we have the great Aaron Adler on clips, we'll be bringing up all of these things on video. Matter of fact, I think maybe we'll record this, play it back later while somebody's doing clips, because all these deserve clip after clip after clip, So, and there's the great Aaron Adler, and he's with the African Prince right now. What did we tell the African
We're
prince?
gonna do graphics here. Just keep talking.
What did we
the
tell
Russians moving? The Russians are
the Russians are coming, and then fail safe. We got a whole bunch of them. We'll have all of them here in a minute. But
Trump slaughter pen.
we'll get back to the Trump slaughter pen. Elon Musk is the key metadata. He's the X factor. I'll do this again and again and again to say that shows you the people above top secret, the people above 327,360 feet, those people with top secret clearance are not voting with Harris.
Well, maybe
They're voting with Trump.
And it could, they're businessmen. They want to have customers. And the alternative is, you have the government for a customer. And
oh, there's the atmospheric layers. There we go.
Karman line's in there. The
Karman line is in there. Why is the Karman line, von Karman, again, it's in my books, but for the first fundamental premise of my piece this morning out there on Substack is you have to look at the pandemic and Elon Musk technology as one. Okay. You have to look at it as one. The ability to send rockets with nuclear warheads in nuclear warfare anywhere in the world in the 1950s is naturally followed up on by the same Nazi dreams from the same Nazi guy, which is Werner von Braun, which is to send bioweapons and bioagents anywhere in the world. That the problem because bioagents, if you think about it, are a lot more deployable. You can vary the strength of bioagents where you cannot do that with nuclear weapons. They tried to get down to the sub-kiloton level. You have all these radiation, it befouls the area. They tried to go with neutron weapons. Sam Cohen at the Rand Corporation tried to come up with the neutron bomb. It still leaves way too much radiation. So they had to make the fundamental switch to bioagents. The reason South Africa, one of the reasons was Elon Musk's South Africa is they can hit this from Lompoc. I went to the launches in Vandenberg Air Force Base in Lompoc. I went to McGregor, Texas, where Elon had a launch facility. I can't count how many launches I covered at Cape Canaveral. From any of those three positions, they can launch a rocket and it can deploy a satellite. The satellite can either do communications or it can deploy bioagents, right? We talked about the CubeSats with Imran Awan and so forth. So I can simulate anywhere in the world. I can simulate a pandemic. I can get the United Nations to then Article 5 to do an invasion, basically, of that country. So this is a plan that we experienced in the pandemic, the second half of that plan, right? I don't think that was a deployment of the bioagents through any kind of aerosol in the sky or chemtrails. I think it was a simulation. But we experienced what would happen. What does a lockdown look like? This is all written up in my books, Under Lockdown and Somewhere Under the Rainbow. The rainbow was the arc of the missile, right? So that's all in. Why don't we play a little bit of Falcon?
It's going. It's just
We got
no audio.
No audio in the background.
Launching off of Lompoc.
But if you go to my Substack, you'll see where I go to all these places and I say the same thing. You have to look at the Elon Musk technologies. You have to look at Werner von Braun's bio ICBM dreams, right?
So that's his baby. That's his creation,
right?
And so,
well, it's DARPA's creation. He's just the front man, right?
Okay, with that, but even so, that was built with a lot of blood, sweat, and tears from a lot of people,
right?
And maybe it's just the concern of this technology falling into the wrong hands, or say the lesser of two evils. Okay, but I would say that they're behind Trump because they're afraid of what would happen to or how this technology would be used going into the future.
Right. Yeah. But see, Trump has been talked into through Elon and talked into the Iron Domes. He's been talked into all the next generation,
the good stuff. Okay, but then you got the other side that that wants to like spraying bioagents from satellites. Well, maybe Elon's not like into that.
Yeah, maybe he doesn't. Maybe he doesn't know about that. Yeah.
But the nefarious, malevolent things that this technology could create. If things went the way.
They fell into the wrong hands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just And they're and then his point, just to be just picking the lesser of two evils, because I guess we always are.
Well, yeah. I mean, I definitely would say Trump's the lesser of two evils. I'm not even saying he's evil. I definitely think Kamala and that.
Well, the devil's always in the details.
Right.
That's just
right. And this is why. But the thing I draw on in my Substack today is in the 50s we had a huge groundswell of education in math and science. So there was a rising tide raised all boats, and there was something called spin-off technology from the NASA program, which all the spin-offs were, GPS and heat shields and Teflon, not necessarily Teflon, but, all the spin-off technologies in automotive, medical, aviation, etc. So you had, it made all of us, when we were kids, it made us all smart and got us all high-paying jobs in high tech and whatnot. What I don't see this time, Elon, is any of the development of the kids. We had the young African prince in here earlier. We had him drawing pictures of rockets and the moons. We don't see the education in math and science. That's why I'm here in Neighborhood News School, is because we want to see that development. We want to be one of 10,000 schools doing that development after school, rather than going to see the ABC after school special. How about the ABC after school future? And so that's where I say is if Elon does come in, I want to make sure that there's something outside of the Department of Education, outside of the woke elites, that's educating our kids so that we're not leaving the kids behind in science and math. That's my big, because this isn't like the one before where they did science fairs and they were trying to develop us all, from the ground up, the masses. This isn't like that before. This is very in an elitism, a technical elitism all of its own right now with Elon. And that's there I am, back to the moon. We're going back to the moon 50 years later. That's in Houston at Johnson Controls. So I think all of these science fiction movies are a great lead-in to educating kids. Boy, Todd's doing a business today, isn't he? Todd's guns.
He's got a
class,
concealed class today.
Yeah. He's but I just think with all the uncertainty with the election, there's been a lot of gun traffic today, man. They're walking by our place going, "Hey, we're not trusting the First Amendment. We're going to number 2." There's Andy and I at Kennedy Space Center. So we've gone around. We've talked about how there is this sharing of technology with the Russians through the United Launch Alliance, and what's the choice? So I call it "Make America Read Again," Mara. Make America Right Again, second R in right, and Make America Arithmetic Again, right, second R in arithmetic. The whole idea of this, the country schoolhouse, is the way to secure the future. Automated with AI and showing everybody all the dark mega technologies. But if we leave this to the woke elites, they're going to get your kid to change your gender. And after your kid changes the gender after 11 operations, 12 operations, they're going to fentanyl your kid. And I don't believe the woke elites in Washington have the best interests of the kids' educational development at hand. There's an African princess now. We have the African princess and the African prince. Hey, hi, Vanessa. How are you? Can you guys draw a picture? Can you guys draw a picture of a moon and some rockets? Yeah. The moon has green cheese on it, so draw some cheese. No, I'm just kidding. It has craters, though. Put the craters in the moon. Yeah. So go ahead.
The man in the moon. Yeah. I'm all about trying to bring the education system back to the local level all the way around. There's no reason for us to send money to Washington, D.C., to have it come back. Just instead of sending it to Washington, just send it to you, into your state or local school district,
right.
And decide at that level how the money is going to be spent. Okay. And what's best for the state.
But can we trust them though, Mark? Even at the local level, right? Can we trust them to make these decisions that are the best for the kids?
Well, a school choice. That's the whole thing. Is provide
vouchers.
And make the schools compete for students.
Race to the top.
Race to the top. And because you did that with the Ivy League universities. They're there, and then there's the rest of the universities, but. It's more like trying to make it smaller again and more focused. You used to have colleges, which were colleges. Then they added, into everything else became universities. And, well, not every school has to have all of this, and I think there's no real benefit, to sending the money to Washington.
Right.
And that because then they're going to have you qualify getting it back by doing certain things. Okay. Tricks like a dog to get the money back.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's like adding a middleman to the process,
the middleman takes over half of the dollar.
Yeah. Just,
right?
Take the money and keep it in the school district or however, that can be, and focus on that.
Now you pay for this place, so you're the owner here,
Mm-hmm.
and so a place where parents can come with their kids or after school, where they can sit down as high school students and say, how am I going to chart a path to one of the better universities? What AP classes should I be taking?
Do we need those though anymore? Because
AP math and AP.
Well, the whole brick and mortar school. Okay.
I see what you're saying.
Because that goes back to the monasteries.
Right.
And again, it's a closed. Everything's like open source education.
Right.
You should even be able to just get your education right from home. Have your remote. You've got Zoom and everything else. There's no reason to have a physical classroom. In a lot of instances, other than maybe to get together for labs. Or
inspiration,
yeah,
or personal touch. I agree. I mean, we have a curriculum deal where it can all be delivered remotely. I just think they're the AP class list. Keep that up. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, make it big.
But even there, the school only focuses on them. Okay, and they give up on the rest of them, and they don't get educated.
Right.
It's like,
but I see a lot of DEI coming in now where they're saying, hey, don't have the best students go after all the AP classes. Let's put in the DEI thing, and because that's really social justice.
Because they
and
don't
all these other things.
Because they don't have the teachers that have the capability of teaching these classes anymore. I mean, because you don't, to me, like a college of education now, I mean, they used to go to teachers colleges, get a certificate to teach. And then the university's got these bachelors of education. It's more like, what is it? Verbal abuse 101. It's all about controlling the kids and behavior. Okay.
Right.
They got rid of grammar and replaced it with current events. Okay. Arithmetic became new math. Okay. And
we're sitting here.
And then we had to have sex education, but those things are like, they don't need to be in the school or part of what you're paying for in your taxes. It's like really the reading, writing, and arithmetic.
Right. And that's our curriculum. That's the one.
Balance a checkbook,
Yeah.
Learn how to have money at the end of the month kind of stuff.
We want to have definitely simulations and so forth so that, there's a problem set of, okay, what if, Iran has 100 missiles and decides one day to launch its nuclear missile capability into Israel. How would you do the missile command intercept over Tel Aviv and Jerusalem? Mm-hmm. That starts out that's a very realistic current event.
Yeah.
That now we can go, wait a minute now, we need to have certain velocities on our anti-ballistic missiles. That's going to be physics. That's going to be calculus, right? Or if it's a biological agent that's used, now we need to talk about vaccinology. Mm-hmm. We need to talk about biochemistry. We need to talk about chemistry. We need to, like you were saying, counter agents, the things that will
to mitigate it,
suck the salt out, right? So all these things lead into a lot of scenarios, and I guess you could call it wargaming. Mm-hmm. That's what we want. That's what I call the dark MAGA curriculum, because those are the jobs of the future. That's where you're going to actually get work. As far as you could. I mean, we could have menial jobs and so forth, but if we want to compete with China, and that's where China's going, we have to, keep developing these kids in this way. So I know, Trump, I know a lot of this hasn't been worked out because of all the campaigning.
But even the things, building things, creating things, I mean, things like carpentry are important.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
look at your wood cabinet there.
And but having the flexibility to be able to just to have your garage, blacksmithing, I mean that's kind of a like an old kind of a technology, but I mean that stuff still needs to be done too for and we got to know how to build ships,
right,
and we I mean, so there has to be, the educational system has to be structured, to find a hole for everybody to get in.
Right.
Oh,
well, to that point, I was involved quite a bit with 3D printers for modeling, selling a lot of the model shop technology equipment. A lot of times you build a model in wax, sometimes you build a model in wood, sometimes you build it in balsa wood. Then you go to a prototype, which is a little bit more like Inconel if you're going to print it in 3D printing, or then you get stainless, which is really hard to work, and there's a lot of machining.
What if your kid went to work with you every day and just worked with you, as a kid, followed along with you, and learned all the 3D printing or having that be a way, and then you're getting your home, and then you're getting your homeschooling too, that it's like.
Well, I definitely believe if you got a block of aluminum with current AI technologies and current, with current MakerBot type technologies, a dad could sit down with his daughter or son and then do an aluminum model of the shuttle. For instance,
you can't buy a chemistry set anymore. I mean, they aren't around. We had
Timothy McVeigh. They don't want the deplorables to have chemistry knowledge.
My brother, I remember him. Just get the bottles, all these different. We were just having fun with it.
I had all
burning magnesium. That's erector sets. It's like
for construction. Sure.
Yeah, it's like
Legos.
All of that.
It's been taken away. It's all been pushed to a virtual world of Oculus and wargaming, Snow Crash. We want you living in a container, but we want you to have the Apple Vision or whatever the Meta. I can't remember what the
Meta. Microscope. No, you can't look at.
There it is. Atomic Energy Lab. They're showing all these great old things. No, this was, and you remember Donald Barr, Bill Barr's dad, wrote a lot of these things. Wrote a lot of these comic books. Yeah, for the science magazines and so forth, for the National Science Foundation. So we're trying to bring back, I think, the best of Bill Barr, that half of him, the part where he wanted to create remote, colonies with nubile young women, is the part we don't want to recreate.
Kenner girder and panel building sets. Remember building your skyscrapers with those, the plastic.
Make these big, Aaron. Don't Mark and I. There we go. Yeah, Chemcraft. There you go. Remember all those? There was hundreds of these. We got every one. My dad got me every one of these.
Yeah, and you learned as much there as in school. Crystal radio sets. Build your own little radio.
Did that.
Heath kits. Build your own color TV.
My brother built 50 Heath kit radios. 100. Yeah. So and television set, build a cardboard television set when I was a little kid and so forth. Yeah. This is like when we talk about this, people think it's people from the future. No, it's people from the 60s that did all this stuff. Yeah. Right. All this stuff was the part of of our kiddom.
Is that the crystal radio?
This is the recapitulating the first record player by Edison with the drum.
Oh,
the drum. See. Philo Farnsworth was from Fort Wayne, Indiana, where the vacuum tube or the cathode ray tube was invented, and it had a pretty good run until these things came out. The other thing, Mark, is all of this discussion about the future and what the future curriculum should be, right, hasn't been done in the campaign, right? The campaign so far, there's not been a school initiative. What the campaign has been is the border, lower taxes, increase the tariffs.
Well, we're not talking about busing anymore. That stopped. Remember busing? That was the problem with education back then. Busing, we have to bus the kids to the other school.
The last couple of days, I'm glad early voting is so many people have early voted, because once you vote, you can kind of just turn off the sound when all the negative ads come on. It's really what I see is a shift from the presidential to the senators trying to detach themselves away from Harris. Stabenow in Ohio is trying to detach. Sherrod Brown is trying to detach himself. the senator from Ohio. In Michigan, you have sort of the same thing going on with Slotnick, although she's pretty well aligned. But she's not out there saying, "Hey, I'm with Gretchen Whitmer. I'm with Harris." She's the CIA versus Mike Rogers. That Senate is important too.
Yeah, especially I guess that would be a sense of might establish Michigan as a red state if Rogers gets in. That it's not as much in play as it has been. Never know. We have to see how it plays out.
Well, and people don't realize before the Chicago mob took out space in Michigan, I think Judith Very Baker's father worked for Chrysler for I can't remember, the Atlas rocket, I think.
Wasn't Mike Rogers the one that went to Trump and told him that he was being surveilled?
Yes. And remember, it was the admiral out of Auburn, the admiral, the Warhawk guy, who said, "Oh yeah, you've got 130 some independent contractors, like at the Sweet Tea NSA and what was her name? I can't remember her name. Something like some goofy name. 33 races. You see, Ohio's up for grabs. Michigan with Slotnick. I think there's senators also retiring this year in Ohio because I think it's Stabenow and Sherrod Brown are up.
Portman's not.
Stabenow's here, Michigan.
Oh, Michigan. Oh, but no, I don't know. I
Isn't
see
Portman done? Isn't Portman the one that didn't run?
Portman retired. Yeah. So there's a lot of. Aaron will bring all those up. I think we're turning away from the national race a little bit. Senator Stabenow secures the permanent.
Michigan.
Yeah, Michigan. Excuse me, Michigan.
Yeah.
I'm
All the same.
I'm in Ohio every night.
Mhm.
I'm in Toledo every night. And so I see all the ads and they're all mixing together because I see all the Michigan ads and I see all the Ohio ads kind of mixed together. But I know Sherrod Brown for a long time. I know he put CAFTA and NAFTA in. And it's interesting. Stabenow is saying, I didn't do CAFTA. I didn't do NAFTA. I was protecting Michigan jobs, right? While Sherrod Brown was putting CAFTA and NAFTA in there. What is this graph, Aaron? I see presidential
Target races. Oh, sorry. Here, I got to get Sherrod on it. Did Sherrod Brown have a BlackBerry? Is he BlackBerry carrier?
No, the Senate, they didn't have it in the Senate. It was mainly people in the House.
Ah.
Show me what you made, Jordan. Ooh, we made a rocket ship. Ooh,
Yeah.
pretty cool. Pretty cool. Yeah. So
I remember you covering Sherrod Brown, though, years ago. What was it that he did?
he was very close to Obama. He was very close to putting DeWine in. And, they had Portman was the Republican senator, and this is the megatons of megawatts. Remember how all the uranium was supposed to come to Piketon and it didn't? It went to Israel, and then Israel kind of broke it out to about 20 different countries. So that was a big part of BlackBerry's. The whole Iran nuclear deal, almost all of the fissile uranium through the DNC and to Iran. Yeah, he was very close with the. I'm not going to say a spy, but he was sort of the runner for the Iran nuclear deal, I believe, when he was in as senator in Ohio. So, but this is what I'm saying, Mark, is there this dialogue that we're having here about what should the future curriculum be and what is neighborhood news' schools' role in that is not being talked about. It's not being talked about. Yeah, we've got people coming in from all over. The door is the knocking today. So, hey, Jordan, bring me over your spaceship. Bring me over your rocket. I want to show everybody on national television.
Oh, really?
Come on in. Come on in. Come on in. Longtime fan wants to come in. Yeah.
Here we go.
Come on in.
We're live.
I actually think, hey, come on in. You're always welcome here.
Yeah. There's talk.
There is, I think this is Elon Musk because it's a combination of a Deus ex machina coming down. Can you see it? And there's, what do they call it? The gripper. What's the gripper thing that Elon has where the tower can grip the rocket as it's coming back in? but he's also put the arms and head on there for Elon Musk. So that's great stuff. Where are you from?
Naples, Florida.
Naples, Florida. Well, I'm glad you made the trip all the
Actually
way.
from Cleveland, Ohio. That's where I originated.
What part of Cleveland are you from?
West Side, Fairview Park.
Okay, all right. We have some friends in Strongsville with Harry the Greek, and I'm from.
Yeah,
I'm
that's where
from.
I'm heading today.
Oh, good for you.
Strongsville, yeah.
Goodfield, Strongsville. That's where they had the little FBI kidnapping thing, if you remember. Yeah, people don't know that. Look up Lisa Page in Strongsville. Yeah.
I followed Harry on all of that a few years ago.
Yeah, Harry is awesome. Well, I'm from Euclid. I'm from the other side. And so this is the great Mark Buckley, who is for all this. And you had to stop in to see if it's really true, right?
We're really here.
I'm going by, I was driving from Indiana over, and I'm like, oh, Sunday morning, I don't know if they'll be there, but I'm going anyway.
There you go.
See the corner.
Yeah.
Good.
I knew there were flags.
Well, if you want to be on camera, you can be on camera. No, you don't want to be on camera. Okay. Well, anyway, we'd love to have you here. But this is the great thing about having an open studio.
Sit and watch. I gotta go pick up.
Because people can come in. They can come in and they can see that where
Live audience.
all the magic happens. What's your most pressing question of the election now that we have a studio audience?
Oh, let's see.
How about Elon Musk? What do you think about Elon Musk?
I'm a little skeptical, but we'll take what he's given right now.
Yeah.
Well, we were just talking about Cleveland, kind of Sherrod Brown. So from being from Cleveland,
He's from Cleveland, yeah.
kind of your view on that race. How do you think Ohio will decide the Senate race?
Well, for the first, can I say a code name? Can you give me a code name so I can just refer to you via a code name? So I'll just call you West Side.
Okay.
Yeah. So West Side says she's a little skeptical of Elon, and I think I am too. Look at all the technologies pushing. Tesla, AI with Grok, XAI they call it. The remote cars, the Cybertruck, Cybercab without a steering wheel. I mean, if there is a car that's going to take you to the FEMA camp and lock your doors, it's going to be Cybercab. You won't have any pedals. You won't have any steering wheel, right? And then Tesla, same thing. If you look at it, that was a sports car to introduce EVs. But then what's the next thing that follows up with it? It's something right out of the tank and automotive command in Detroit, which is the Cybertruck. It's meant to deflect bullets down or up, so it won't, take the impact with those sharp edges. Looks like an F-117 stealth fighter. Mm-hmm. It's an obvious military vehicle, and there is this. Elon does seem like a DARPA frontman for all this military technology, and especially the AI.
It's a Star Trek shuttlecraft with wheels.
Star Trek shuttlecraft is from the Star Trek. Aaron is out with the African Prince and African Princess. You saw the African Prince and African Princess walking out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So they exist. Okay. But that's the part I think people aren't putting together with the pandemic. Is Elon, when you deploy these satellites, let's say I've gone to a lot of Starlink launches. There used to be 20. I think they've gotten the package up to 25, 30 now. But they spill out like canisters, like the old depth charges. Remember the old McHale's Navy movies where the canisters would spill out, and then these things are then rotating in the atmosphere. You can turn them on to spray and turn them off over any area. Let's say you want an epidemic in South Africa. Okay, what is it going to be? West Valley fever. Okay, West Valley fever. We're going to go in there, and Dr. Sun Shang. I went to the factory where they can build a billion vaccines, and now the UN can invade anywhere in the world. Anywhere in the world, we can create a pandemic now and then invade under Article 5. So I just think that you have to hold Elon's feet to the fire and say, hey, you can't leave the kids out of this. You can't leave the American youth out of this. And you have to educate these kids in science and math. Kids? No kids? Okay, all right. What do you feel like about science and math education?
I like what your concept here is.
Yeah.
Because we're really on the decline in the States on education of our kids.
Yeah, there's another voice from the street. West Side says we're offline, and we need to put effort back into that. I think there's so much DEI, there's so much focus on gender change, there's so much focus on feelings, there's so much focus on equity versus fairness, where we all have to finish together at the same time on the finish line. So much time for behavioral issues, like you mentioned. When is there time for math and science? When is there time for reading, writing, and arithmetic? Right. So we wanted, Mark built a clubhouse here so that we can have time. You saw the African prince and African princess doing the rockets. What's your comment on the Ohio Senate race, or anything you want to throw in on that view?
Oh,
more science fiction is what we need. Forbidden Planet.
Well,
the Krell. How do we defeat the Krell? If we could answer that, we're gonna be.
Well, we could end up like the Krell. Is all. And maybe that's what Elon's looking at. If, we go the wrong way with some of this stuff.
Have you seen this Optimus robot where you're supposed to train it on the things that you're the best at? Your best, most invaluable.
Well, they had Robbie the robot in the movie there.
Robbie the robot in which movie?
In Forbidden Planet.
In Forbidden Planet.
Yeah.
And does he learn the skills, the exceptional skills of his master?
Yeah.
He learns Robbie the robot learns the exceptional.
Makes food for them, synthetic fruit and everything else. But it was like
that's right out of an Optimus commercial.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think Forbidden Planet's going to be the new required reading or viewing, right? We should be firing that up.
When you think about AI, I think definitely that that movie, the movie, dealt with an artificial intelligence that was created by a civilization, and then it was destroyed by the artificial intelligence.
Yeah. So that's very much, and these. You mentioned the tunnels and the energy systems and all that. If you look at AI right now, Meta, Google, Amazon, XAI with Twitter or with Elon, Google, they're all building out gigantic data centers, and they're talking about powering them with their own small modular nuclear reactors. So it's sort of like the people who had the top secret clearances of the 50s and 60s are saying, oh, we've taken that huge reactor technology, we've sized it down so we can make it modular, but we're not giving it out for everybody else for backup power. We're going to use it to power our mega packs. What is Elon's battery called? The mega pack.
Well, in the 1950s, they were dealing with vacuum tubes, and
that would heat our house. We could heat our house with vacuum tubes when I grew up.
And then the transistor came along, and now it's got, before, a radio was a substantial sized product.
Right. So I'm saying though that is it AI for us or AI for them? And
it's for who's alive to enjoy it.
Right.
Kind of. So
I'm just.
You got to want to survive them, so you have to.
I know we're in the middle, and Aaron's killing me today. He says, election, don't just talk about Trump, and I'm like, well, we have to talk about what happens after Trump, because I think they're throwing in on the side of Trump. I think Trump wins Michigan. I think he wins Ohio. I think he might even win Pennsylvania. And if he wins those three, it's over, right? I mean, and I go by the metadata of where the campaign is sending these people. They don't go and just do rallies for their health. If you're going to Virginia, Salem, Virginia, which is not far, and it's kind of the cigarette belt of Virginia, that's the farmer, tobacco farmer. That means he thinks it's in play. They think Virginia is in play, which it wasn't the last time. Obama won Virginia twice. I think Hillary won Virginia. I think
was
Biden
was
won
McAuliffe governor at that time?
That's McAuliffe was the guy I was trying to think about. Mr. Dirty Tricks with the green energy scandal with the green car. Remember that? McAuliffe, and he was the fixer for the Clintons for years.
And I'm thinking that he was the fix in 2020.
Right. He put in the fix for 2020 for Biden. That's the other thing is a lot of people voted for Biden because I identified with the working man concept, even though it might have been a fake, projection.
There's going to be, if there's a civil war, it's going to be in the Democratic Party. you know, something. I mean, I think that's Bobby Kennedy, you know, in his position there, you know, is kind of showing, you know, those that are saying, you know, the Democratic Party left me. But I think there are those that have, you know, it's like we can't win, you know, on this, you know, agenda,
Right.
on this platform. We have to, you know, rediscover our
Get away from the communist
Yeah.
influences
Yeah.
and get back to like Kennedy Democrat type.
Right.
Yeah. Because I think RFK still is sort of a Kennedy Democrat.
Yeah.
It's just that it's moved so far left that he looks conservative now, but he just kind of has stayed where he was, you know, clean water and good health, all these things.
Well, you could have a debate once, you know, we don't have debate anymore. It's
Right.
just,
You're shouted down.
Yeah.
Right. And Tulsi Gabbard, same thing. Right. The party left her. She didn't leave the party really.
Well, the party is what, that eight, the eight, what are that eight, the eight people in Congress that are the what the hell are they called?
Oh, the Gang of Eight.
The Gang of Eight.
The Gang of Eight.
I mean,
4 from the House, 4 from the Senate.
Yeah. But that's really who's been running everything.
Yeah.
You know.
And then they don't tell anybody about what they're doing, right? And then it happens, and then they found out afterward. That's the other part of the Gang of Eight, where they work all these secure access programs, and you only find out about it afterwards. So that's something else I'd like to see Trump do is release a lot of these documents, the JFK documents for sure, the JFK Jr. documents for sure, the RFK documents for sure. I mean, let's just get all the old stuff.
He mentioned, somebody asked him, and he did comment, you know, that he's released most of it. There's like, I guess not as much. It's not as much there as people think.
Well, then why hold it?
So there are still a few people that are alive, I guess. And I guess he mentioned Pompeo was one of those that
he wasn't even alive during the Kennedy assassination.
You know, but he was one, I guess, that was the name he mentioned that encouraged him not to do it.
Yeah, but he's protecting somebody else. He's protecting Dick Cheney. You know, he's protecting you know, Wolfowitz.
But that's going to be like, if he gets, it'll be one of the first things he's going to do is release all of that.
Because you've talked to me a lot about RFK Jr. being the potential Attorney General.
I've heard, you know, calls for that, and there could be an interesting play.
Yeah. I mean, maybe we should just watch sci-fi movies until the election, so that we can learn all the live exercises that are coming our way.
Attorney General is a very powerful position.
Look at Merrick Garland.
Yeah,
Merrick Garland's the one who pulls the snipers off the roof to let Trump go unguarded in Butler. Right, told to me by Tony Guy, the sheriff. He says, "I doesn't report to me; it reports to Merrick Garland." So yes, Merrick Garland's the one who made the decision about the raid where they said authorize lethal force if anybody gets in your way at the Mar-a-Lago raid. All of these cases that you know, the election case in Georgia, or all these things have been sponsored and co-authored and co-signed by Merrick Garland.
And I really was kind of reinforced, you know, in my own opinion, that, you know, he would become Attorney General after Boris Epstein dropped all those other names, you know, like, you know, for, you know, and that Judge Cannon was one of them, but, you know, all these other names, Mike Davis, Jeff Clark, which they're all competent, you know, and they all would be good attorney generals.
But they don't want RFK. I mean, that scares the crap out of them, you know.
Well, you're going to have, you know, there's a lot of confirmations. So you have to put a lot of acting people in power, like on the first day that are, you know, and
I say release it all as soon as possible, because then you get into the legal otherwise, and where they're going to try to slow everything down in legal. Just go ahead and unilaterally release it, and then let them try to then do some kind of impeachment or whatever, but get it out there on the first day. It's sort of like 50 executive orders on the first day, and he was asleep during the second 50, or you know what I mean? He was just signing as soon as they did the inauguration. He went right over the White House and he just signed 50 executive orders. That's how it has to be with the declassifications, I think. Just sign everything, get it all out.
And it's somebody that's acting in the position. Okay, so they're not going to be confirmed. They could just get the job done. And if they'll confirm, well, then you put the person in it, but the job's already been done.
Right. You can blame the pro tem. You can blame the pro tem.
Fire all the U.S. attorneys or whatever, you know. And it's like, you know.
Clinton fired all the U.S. attorneys. I don't know what's wrong with. So did Reagan. I think fired all the U.S. attorneys. If Trump fires all the U.S. attorneys and then has a pro tem person release all that stuff, I think it's a National Archives thing. But they want the control. They definitely want the control of this. Let's go to the comments here really quickly. Everyone is saying hello to everyone else, which is great. All of the BlackBerry tracking was mind-blowing. I've been impressed with your work for years. Thank you very much, Mr. Richalds. You could buy a lock-picking set from the back of a comic book. Do you remember that? Do you ever?
Yes. Yeah.
Did you ever buy that? Did
No.
you ever buy something like that?
No, but I bought, seeds and Christmas cards, for sale. They'd be trying to sell. Well,
You and I both went door to door a lot. I believe in retail, knocking on the doors. Some thermops from Canada is saying you must fire all U.S. attorneys on day one. I couldn't agree more. Let's see. We'll go through these and then we'll wrap the show. God bless you, George. Real investigative journalism is alive and well. Thank you very much. All BOCES, BOCES. I don't know what a BOCE is. BOCES. I don't know what that means. Implants are so 20th century, wireless all around for quite a while now. Well, I think, with the Neuralink, I think what are they on Neuralink 4 now? It's in the monkeys. I mean, they're not waiting with pigs and cattle. They're up to macaques, I think. And they are trying. I think there's trials in humans now for people with epilepsy and other neurodegenerative type disorders. Maybe it's just epilepsy right now. I can't remember. But we'll make the handsome Canadian captain, and it'll all sell. I think that's a hit right at Trudeau. I think that's a smack right at Trudeau. Just, handsome beats all other qualities.
He's so handsome.
I know. I know. It's just like, oh my God, I wish. Oh, well. I love Trump, best president ever. Yeah. So we had a lot of good comments this morning. It's great to have the visitor from the west side of Cleveland. We've had so many visitors from the east side of Cleveland. It's nice to have finally somebody from the west side. West side represents. Did you guys have knife fights on the west side of Cleveland? No. The airport's out there, Hopkins Airport. I remember I flew into Hopkins Airport for the first time as an unaccompanied 9-year-old from Chicago because my parents, I was staying with my sister in downtown Cleveland, downtown Chicago near the 68 riots for the Democratic National Convention.
Oh, wow.
They were seeing all the riots, and I was, they called me and I told them I could hear them and I could see the fires and everything. Cars were overturning and everything. And so the plan was that she was going to drive me to Cleveland. My parents never bought a plane ticket in their lives, I don't believe, unless they had a free trip once where they flew a plane. But they bought me a ticket to fly one way on Northwest Orient. You remember the airline called Northwest Orient, and flew me back to Cleveland. And there was some kind of traffic jam and they couldn't get to Hopkins Airport. And I was an unaccompanied 9-year-old. And they were so mad at my sister. Why are you taking that kid down amongst all these riots with all these cars, Mayor Daley and all this stuff? But I do remember that very clearly. Hopkins Airport out there, not far from Strongsville, not far from where you live. So, and that's only an hour and a half from here?
Yeah.
About an hour and a half. Okay, great. It's great to have some Cleveland folks here in the studio. Aaron's not here, but I was going to. I think I had only had an hour planned. So, one of the African princes is back. Is your father? Okay, Aaron. I think we're going to wrap.
Okay, good. All right, 1 second here. Yeah.
Okay. Keeping track of all the African princes and princesses around here is a full-time job. We're starting the neighborhood news studio school for, if nothing else, just to get these African princes and princesses out of Aaron's house. I don't know how Rita does it. But you've known all the kids since they were. I saw your baby pictures of the oldest one. We won't say their names, but I saw your baby pictures of the oldest one when you were on the Toledo River.
Yeah,
that was beautiful. You've known all these. You've been an uncle to all these kids for how long?
15 years.
15 years.
Yeah, somewhere.
Right.
Yeah.
So I wanted to say thanks to Mark for putting this studio together. We need, my proposal that I wrote in Make America Read Again, Mara, is to have 10,000 schools, 3,000 counties that Trump won for rural schools, and then at least 3 locations in your county, so you don't have to go all the way to the county seat. Some of the counties in out west are really, really big. But Elon Musk just announced another 30,000 Starlink satellites. And I wanted one of our satellite school locations. Again, we don't own these. These are other volunteers like Mark, who are concerned citizens that want to redo some area in their downtown to revitalize their downtown. We wanted to have one under each Starlink. So we might want to go.
Maybe that's you should work on and see if we can't get hooked up to Starlink.
Yeah. Yeah. All the schools to Starlink, just in case you're cut off. I swear this is DARPA internet kill switch. The reason why they're going extraterrestrial is because they want to do the kill switch against the deplorables. So each school has to have a Starlink above it, right? So that the neighbors everybody can go there in a case of an internet kill switch, right? It's your rally point. That's why I say with this Ivan Ranklin thing where everybody's going to march on the state capitol or march on the Capitol, that is a slaughter pen. The Second Amendment response, if they do try to steal the elections, that is a slaughter pen response. You want to go to your neighborhood, local neighborhood news. And if you don't have a neighborhood news, that's who you should be. Instead of storming the Capitol, you should be opening a storefront right now for your neighbors to meet at, right? So that you have a place, a rally point to meet at before you do something stupid. Ivan Ranklin wants you to run into the slaughter pen. Not a good idea. You want to play us out with that video?
Yep, that's the plan. Closing remarks?
I like this visitor a lot better than the Edward G. Robinson visitor, with the gun. I like this kind of visitor a lot better from the West Side. You're welcome anytime, West Side. Thank you for coming.
All right, we'll see everybody later today.
We'll see everybody later today, and I'll probably do a Twitter a little bit later today.
Very good.
Okay, hello everybody. Happy Saturday. George Webb here. It's a beautiful day at the news. Our vendor here is with the Trump flags, selling the Trump flags again today. So get out here and buy your Trump flags. It's really great because this is a great corner, and this gentleman's been here and really has helped us launch neighborhood news in a way we couldn't even dream possible. Yes, we had the violent or vandalism, threats of violence. Yes, we've had the Edward G. Robinson guy coming in, but we're not gonna let it knock us down. We're gonna keep showing the pride. And if you want to yell, go yell for your candidate. Go yell for your candidate instead of doing the death threats and all this stuff. Right? Go yell for your candidate, whoever it is. So you can see here, I don't know why we might be getting the Bose speakers and sound system ready. And then our Africa centers coming together in Neighborhood News Gym, the kickboxing right here, the kickboxing classes. So we're going to do it all. So yeah, it's really coming together, the kids area and so forth. So it's really coming together nicely. But that's what I'm saying is, rather than get into the violence and the vandalism and the threats and so forth, go yell for Harris if Harris is your candidate. You don't need to come here and vandalize. We had a little vandalism on the news van. Why? It's so senseless. It'll be over in 5 days. Nobody's touching your Social Security. One way or the other, we're all going to be Americans. Let's just settle down and go out and support your candidate, whoever that candidate is, and vote.